Believe in Iowa State podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Carter.
And I'm your host, Cody Vanciololo.
Cody, welcome back, man. It has been a glorious bye week, but now it's time to get back into action. Iowa State host Texas Tech on Saturday for a big homecoming game. Really, really sad that I won't be able to make it.
Yeah, I mean, looking at our team now, I'm very glad about the bye week. It was well timed. Obviously, had some guys get banged up during the UCF game, but it sounds like Ben Brammer, it wasn't too serious. It just sounds like had a sprain. Doesn't sound anything too serious, so I expect him to be on the field on Saturday. Same thing with Carson Hansen. Then for the linebacking situation, looking at Kale Brazina to be healthy. Will McLaughlin looks to be the closest out of the between Will McLaughlin, Carson Willich, and Caleb Bacon. Will McLaughlin is the closest to being fully recovered, but we'll see if he steps on the field or not. But we did get some good news that Willich and Bacon sound like there is a probable chance of returning, maybe like for Farmageddon or presuming we make the Big 12 championship, we make it for that. But that's going to be something to look out for injury wise. But generally speaking, perfect time for bye week to get our offense, our defense healthy, get everybody healthy, and to kind of get a game plan in place for Texas Tech.
Yeah, man. The bye week was definitely well put. As you know, I made some moves on the sound waves and basically put a target on myself that I said that we're gonna win the rest of our games. But I truly believe in this team. So obviously, I know I'm gonna get roasted if we don't. But it's whatever. I believe.
I mean, there's a probable clause for us winning the rest of our games. I mean, I believe we're favored in the rest of our games, and I think the closest margin is either K State, Utah, or Kansas, one of those three. But generally speaking, we're favored in all of our games, and just what I'm seeing right now, I can expect us to either go 12-0 or maybe 11-1. Maybe we slip up somewhere, but the one thing I'll say is, as long as we don't slip up to K State, everything's going to be fine. Because that's the thing, how it's looking right now is Farmageddon is essentially a play-in game for the Big 12 championship game because obviously K-State barely escaped Kansas in this past week. So they still only have one Big 12 loss. We're undefeated. And BYU, their path is clear. They control their own destiny, and so does Iowa State. Just as long as both teams do so, that's the probable matchup in the Big 12 championship game, which we'll have to see.
What to see? Let's dive deep more into this game. So right now, it's between what was it, Hammond and Baron Morton. We still don't know who is going to be
Mm-hmm.
starting. So, but I'm pretty sure Hammond has a half of football on tape. So I already know that the professor will have something cooked up for him.
Yeah.
Um, and also you have one of the best rushers in the Big 12 coming into this game. He will be Taj Brooks will be a tough one to get. What do you think our plan of attack is on defense to stop them?
I mean, it's kind of this reminds me a lot of the West Virginia game. This reminds me a lot of the West Virginia game. Just seeing what we have like in the running back. Well, obviously, adding Taj Brooks, one of the best running backs, but this has a lot of parallels to the West Virginia game. So I'm thinking a game plan similar to that is something that I could see working for Iowa State. And look at the UCF game. I feel like that game's an oddity. That game was really an oddity for this year because you're not going to see consistently your quarterback give up two pick sixes and your defense giving up three long touchdown runs. So I feel like that game it was very bizarre. But the fact that you still win, even in like the most bizarre circumstances, just shows that there's a lot of room to go, and that you can, in fact, like win games way better than that. But I just think that UCF game was a bit of an oddity, and think we'll be able to plan better for Texas Tech because I think UCF is a better run team than Texas Tech, given that Shaquarmi Brown for UCF is a way more mobile quarterback than either Morton or Hammond for Texas Tech.
And I think Iowa State it defensively was also at a disadvantage because they didn't have tape on Caleb Button. Because you saw what happens when what BYU had a whole games with the film, so you saw how they could easily shut him down and then forcing a pass. He's a bad passer, and they dominated UCF in that game. So I think it's going to be a similar type of attack defensively. Just having, especially with Hammond. I heard if Hammond starts, he's a much better runner. But I'm very very confident in this defense's ability. Um, Obviously throwing into the our like top five secondary in college football.
Hmm. Yeah, and then speaking of like our secondary and our defense, I've taken a look at the depth chart for this week's game. There's some noticeable things here. It looks like Cooper Ebel, Rylan Barnes, and Kale Brzezina, they're going to be starting, but you also see Jack Sadowski, Zachary Lovett, and Jacob Ellis are second in the depth chart. So Jack Sadowski, it's been a while since I think we've seen his name on the field. So I think it's a nice addition to add because I think was he one of the guys that got injured this year?
He did get injured, but he's been like really playing sparingly ever since, mainly just because the emergence of Rylan Barnes and Caleb Brzezina, especially in the Iowa game. It's just like at that point you're like, man, we didn't really even like need to have him because Caleb Brzezina in his first game at Kennick was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, but that was just something to note that like starting to see some more guys like come back. So it's nice seeing Rylan Barnes starting once again. He's been a great story for Iowa State, and I mean this was referred to earlier in the week, but obviously Rylan Barnes comes from a family of farmers. I mean they have a whole farm within like a small town in Iowa, Barnes Farm. So if you have the opportunity to support them, go support Barnes Farms. Those are the people that keep the economy of Iowa and the economy of farming alive in the United States. So very great story to see, and great to see that Rylan Barnes has the opportunity to have his family support him.
Yeah, support your local farmers, Iowa. Um, Now, I think one of the probably something that might be low key is that Texas Tech does have a good receiver. Um, his name is not coming to me at the moment, but his talent is similar to what like a Jaden Higgins or Jalen O would be for us.
Oh, I think I found it. So you were saying Caleb Douglas might have been the guy.
Yeah, yeah, Caleb Douglas is the guy.
Okay, yeah, because but he's funny enough, he's second on the receiving like yards wise. Josh Kelly actually leads Texas Tech with 60 receptions for 609 yards and 3 touchdowns. But yeah, that those two are a solid combination, along with Koi Eakin. So those three are pretty solid receivers. They aren't too bad, but I mean, how much are you going to rely on that offense? Because one thing to know about Texas Tech, they have like the worst pass defense, not just in the Big 12, but in the country. Meanwhile, Iowa State is second in passing offense I think in the Big 12 or in the country, but they're high in passing offense,
Oh,
so that's a pretty bad matchup.
I already, dude, I already know in the during the bye week that Mouse was definitely cooking up a type of game plan for Rucker to throw it all over the yard, bro. Like I think he might be close. He might throw for somewhere close to 350, maybe even 400 in this game.
Yeah, and speaking of Mauser, like I was listening to his press conference, I believe it was this week or last week, but he even admitted that he didn't have the best game plan for UCF, and it's kind of a breather for Iowa State fans to have an offensive coordinator that's it's that transparent, that's honest, and I love seeing that out of Mauser. So I think he's seeing like what Texas Tech has, and I think he might that might honestly be a great thing to see. Like if he's like even saying he's going to adjust his game plan, but he's seen Texas Tech. I think he's going to want to really get Rocco Beck going. I think this is going to be like this might be like a get right kind of game for Rocco passing wise, because
Okay.
even in that UCF game, even when he's passing not great, like some of those passes were not his fault. I mean, he had a couple receiver drops, which are uncharacteristic of Higgins
Yeah.
and Knoll. Both had a couple drops, a couple of missed throws. So I'm thinking this might be a get right game for Rocco in the passing game because they now see like what he can do on his feet. They'll like Texas Tech will have to watch out for that. So I mean, if you can like exploit the weak pass defense of Texas Tech, you might be able to have a well balanced offensive game plan against the Red Raiders.
Yeah, completely agree, man. Well, let's move to our our three big uh, points in the game. What are your three ways to victory?
Uh, I think the three big things I want to see is limiting big plays, like just having guys in the right spot. Because I mean, I'd rather you give up a 15-yard gain than an 80-yard touchdown. So
Right.
just having our guys in the right spot. Um, Number two, just really just exploit that weak pass defense. Like take your shots. Really test this Texas Tech defense. Can they really defend? If not, you can exploit that all day, which can open up the run game. So it's just a matter of exploiting the weaknesses that are present and just adapting to what's going on. And number three, just play clean. That's the thing. Just play clean, and you're gonna win. That's the thing with Iowa State this year compared to past years is like the margins that Matt Campbell's preached on for so long. It's coming to fruition this year, and just continuing to play discipline is going to be massive to Iowa State continuing this great season that they have.
Right. So for me, as always, number one for me is we got to start fast. Start fast because if you can get at least maybe two, maybe even three touchdowns in the first quarter to have that type of thing, you already know it's going to be anaconda time. Number two, it's going to be similar to yours. Is stay disciplined, know what to do in your assignments. And three, tackle. Like tackle, like and make sure you make the right angles and just tackle, man. Like tackling really is the reason why UCF got all those big plays. And I mean, and tackling saved that last drive from causing us to win the game, from to win the game. Because if you look at that last drive on that one RJ Harvey run, RJ Harvey could have just got that first down, the game would have been over. So yeah, those are my three
Mhm.
things.
Yeah, and I think it's also like I think tackling it kind of extends from being disciplined, knowing your assignments. Because Malik Verdon, he actually stayed home rather than shift right into another hole. Like he stayed home. It was either him or Jeremiah Cooper. But if you notice where the DB was, he stayed home. He stayed disciplined. Recognized like that the hole he was about to go to was already filled, so he stays home, gets like to RJ Harvey and is able to stop him short. And that's the thing. Like that's where he can make a decent tackle. Now, granted, maybe like tackle's not the best, but if you're still plucking those holes in and you're doing a good job at staying like on your assignment, staying disciplined, and recognizing the play, reading the eyes of the running back, reading where they could possibly go, just read what they try to do, and then anticipate or react to it. Just those disciplined eyes are going to be really key. And I mean, I think with the way that the comparison, I'm going to make a comparison like about the running back room for UCF and Texas Tech. I believe that UCF has a better rushing offense,
Oh
rushing
yeah,
attack than Texas Tech does, because although you have Taj Brooks for Texas Tech, that's only one guy. You have multiple options with Creamy Brown and RJ Harvey, and
right.
a lot of those big runs were like I think those were QB designed. Those were designed runs, so that was intended for Creamy Brown to take off. So just plucking those up are going to be nice, but yeah, just the theme of disciplined football, disciplined defense is going to be huge. But I believe that that's what has been worked on the past 2 weeks, and I really trust John Haycock and this defense to fix those.
He is the master guy in making adjustments, so I definitely believe in the professor. All right, let's talk about predictions here. What are you thinking?
Yeah, like you said earlier, getting off to a fast start is going to be key, and I believe that Mauser's just going to really be aggressive, just to really test this Texas Tech defense to see if they can actually step up. If they don't, then it can open up really early. So I'm thinking somewhere in the ballpark of 42-24.
You know what the funny thing is that was my exact score. So yeah, I have us winning 42-24. Think we probably start off with 14-0, and then we just continue to pour on.
Yeah. Uh,
Because Tech will get theirs, but we'll be able to force at least two or three turnovers.
Yeah, and that's going to be great to see. Like if they bring out Morton, I think yeah we can, or Hammond, because even in that game with Hammond, there were a couple of moments where he turned the ball over, and I mean Texas Tech is reeling. They started Big 12 play 3-0. They've lost their last two games in a row, and I mean with the Baylor loss, they just got the doors blown off of them by Sawyer Robertson. And then for TCU, they were up double digits by multiple possessions, and they at one point, yeah, they were up 31-14, up 17, and then they just lost the game. So
Yeah,
we'll see where they are. We'll see where Texas Tech is mentally.
for sure. Now it's time for everybody's favorite thing. We're gonna look at the Big 12 this upcoming week, and we're also gonna look at the national game. So yes, there we go. Um, so this one is sort of lackluster, but usually sometimes the lackluster games will have a lot more action. Um, Kansas State versus Houston looks to be interesting.
I mean, yeah, I think a theme that's been fall. I think Houston's actually gotten better as the season went. I mean, Willie Fritz, I think he kind of did the same thing with Tulane. So
Hmm.
I think some people may have fought off Houston too early because I think yeah, this team has gotten better as the season has gone. I mean, obviously they picked up that win over Utah, very ugly win, but still a win against like what was a preseason Big 12 favorite. So Houston might have some momentum going to it, and I mean that 13.5 is very interesting to see. Things get weird down in Houston, Texas. It
Hey
get,
man, yeah, and defensively they're pretty good. So I mean, if they're on, maybe Avery could get forced into some turnovers. So we'll see.
yeah, I think maybe Kansas State will still win this game, but
Oh yeah,
I'm gonna say Houston could possibly cover this spread. They could possibly cover the spread.
yeah, I can see that.
Yep. Okay. After that, you've got Arizona traveling to UCF. All these three games, including our game, is a 2:30 kickoff. So no, unfortunately, no 11 a.m. So that's gonna suck for Big 12 fans. But
Hmm.
that's just an overall lackluster. But it's whatever. But Arizona UCF, I'm not too sure. Some fans are ready to write off Gus Malzahn in Orlando. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, man, it wasn't a good thing when they were at that homecoming thing and he was getting booed. So like, and in the preseason, we thought that this could possibly be a game where these could both be dark horse teams to be contention in the Big 12, and that just it's been a disaster for both teams. And I honestly thought this game was going to have a lot more juice, but I mean, it is the space game, but it's sort of like a meh type of game, probably for both fan bases who had higher expectations going into the season.
Yeah, I think it's just unfortunate, but I mean, obviously, I think somebody brought this up. I was listening to. I was listening to Chris Williams on one of his podcasts. Like he mentioned, like the struggle of jumping up like to new conferences, and for UCF jumping up to P5, it takes a few years to really get acclimated to playing in another conference or playing like in a whole another system of college football. So I think that's what both Arizona and UCF are going through right now, especially UCF, because I mean they have to jump from the American. It's their second year in the Big 12, so I'm thinking it's just getting really adjusted to it. Maybe once, like in a few years' times, we'll see Arizona and UCF be prominent players in the Big 12, but right now they are struggling.
Oh, definitely. And I mean, then you look at 6 o'clock. We got Arizona State, Oklahoma State, and as you know, Oklahoma State is reeling right now. Gundy has been just going off in the media about the players and the coaches, and that just whole all that whole entire thing seems like a disaster. Arizona State hope should be able to come in there and be able to get that win.
I mean, yeah, Oklahoma State had actually returned the same amount of talent as Iowa State did, but that just shows you the two different sides of returning all that talent. You see Iowa State being really thriving with like all the returning production. Oklahoma State has been the opposite, and I'm not too sure what it is. Is it like offensive game planning? Is it like Coach Gundy possibly be like having his days like number like his days being numbered, like outdated tactics or whatever. But I mean, it's been a really bad year for Oklahoma State, and I think they desperately need this to even have a chance to go bowling. And to think to say that if you said this about Oklahoma State at the begin, like in the preseason, you would have been called insane for thinking that Oklahoma State would have been on the verge of not making a bowl game. But yet here we are. Oklahoma State has lost like they're winless in Big 12 play, which is crazy to say. And most of their losses, they've been blown out. I mean, you talk about K State, they got the doors blown off of them there, and then at home against West Virginia, get that 400 plus rushing yards almost against your defense. That is not a sign of a successful team. So where do you go from here? Like if Oklahoma State does lose this game, where do you go from here?
Man, that's the thing. I have no idea where they're gonna go from here. It's gonna be a interesting offseason for them, and Arizona State just hopefully they can take their fantastic season under Kenny Dillingham. That's just been an amazing turnaround to watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, him and Cam Scatterbo. I mean, Scatterbo's been a spark for Arizona State. So we'll see what production Scatterbo has in this game. If it ends up similar to West Virginia, then that'll be a great day for any fan of Cam Scatterbo.
Definitely, man. I think this is gonna be probably one of my favorite watches. We have the rivalry at 7 o'clock on ESPN2. Baylor and TCU. Baylor and TCU were both left for dead like about last month, and now they're both on like 2 or 3 game winning streaks and have renewed confidence. And Baylor TCU, like, it's gonna be an amazing matchup, man. I can't wait to watch this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you mentioned it. Both teams are on 2 game winning streaks. I mean, TCU has won 3 of their last 4. I mean, obviously pulling out that 17-point comeback win against Texas Tech, like we mentioned earlier, and then getting that 13-7 win over at Utah. So they've got some confidence going, and I can say the same thing about Baylor as well. Sawyer Robertson seems to clearly be the answer at quarterback for Baylor. But what's crazy is to think we had just played Baylor, and then they go on to blow out Texas Tech. I think we said this like a while ago. Was like kind of glad we didn't. Glad I got played Baylor when we did, because imagine if it was us being on the other end of getting our doors blown off.
Yeah, that would have been embarrassing. Yeah, all these teams that we've played either are like left for dead or they're figuring it out now, and I'm glad where we're at right now. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, the over under is 63.5, and for some reason I still don't think that that's going to be enough.
I mean, both teams scored 30 plus points in their last games, so who knows like how the defenses are going to keep up with 2 pretty high-powered offenses.
Mhm.
So we'll have to see, but this will be definitely a fun one to pay attention for in the Big 12, and we'll see if which of these teams are like they're riding the ship. I mean, TCU is a game back
Mhm.
of Colorado and K State, and who knows what like the how chaotic this conference is. Can TCU sneak up to possibly a long shot? But this imagine TCU, they're in the mix still of possibly being a dark horse like Big 12 championship appearance.
Yeah, man. I mean, this is gonna be a next. This is gonna be a crazy month of college football ahead. But there are some interesting matchups in the national landscape that I do want to gloss over. I
Yep.
mean, I do want to. Let's talk about the result on Wednesday. I mean, Liberty, man. After having that such easy schedule, they're losing to Jacksonville State and Kennesaw State. Man, what
Yeah,
happened there?
I I don't know. That Kennesaw State one is kind of wild because that was Kennesaw State's first FBS win in program history. Because remember,
Mhm.
Kennesaw State only started playing football about 10 years ago, and I think they just make the leap to FBS either this season or last season. But that's crazy to look at. The fact that their first win was against Liberty, who some people were saying they would have went out like they went undefeated, they would have been the 12th seed, but clearly that's not going to be the case. But I mean, shout out Western Kentucky. I've been loving some of the things they've been putting out for marketing this year. Did you see the thing they posted for Halloween?
No, no.
Okay, so they posted like I have to find it, but it was something inspired by you know like the Halloween movie franchise, Michael Myers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So they did something like that. I would have to find it, but they did something around there. Let's see. Dang, I can't find it, but it was basically like a poster. So it's similar to the original movie's poster, but instead of the pumpkin, it was Big Red. It was the mascot.
I
So
love Big Red.
I gotta love that. And speaking of more Halloween things, actually before we get to that, we need to talk about tonight's matchup of Tulane and Charlotte. Tulane,
Oh,
they're
yeah.
right. I mean, Tulane is still like one of those G5 teams that are still in the conversation of being the G5 like auto bid in the college football playoff because their two losses are to Kansas State, which they could have won, and then to Oklahoma as well, which are both like P4 teams. And I mean, you're playing a top Big 12 team, and then you play an SEC team. Although Oklahoma is not exactly the best SEC team,
Right.
it casual fan media perception will have you believe that Oklahoma is better than they actually are, but that's just how it works. But the fact you played that close to an SEC team, it looks good on your resume as a G5. So gonna watch out for that game, see if Tulane continue winning on, and then possibly be that G5. But speaking of more G5, let's go down to Boise State. This is the main event here. Obviously, you have Georgia State, UConn, South Florida, Florida Atlantic. If you're a sicko, go ahead and watch those. But the main one, San Diego State at number 15, Boise State. Boise State continues to climb up the polls. And, I mean, they are the front runner to be that G5 champion.
Yeah, it seems like they're on a collision course to meet again with UNLV in the Mountain West title game. So we'll see if they can keep it up for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see. I mean, and Ascenti is probably some people's favorite to win the Heisman.
Man, yeah, no, it would be nice because I know a lot of people are saying, well, he's probably not going to win it because of the bias. I'm like, I don't think there's going to be any bias this year. He's clearly been the best player the entire year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, let's get to Saturday now. It's a little like I see where some people will say the slate's a little disappointing, but you're starting your day off with a heavyweight matchup in the Big Ten. Big noon kickoff for Ohio State visiting Happy Valley to take on Penn State. A 4 versus 3.
And this is going to be a whiteout game. This is big noon, and this is possibly be an elimination game for Ohio State right here because right here put them at 6-2, and at this point it'll be a three team race with Indiana, Penn State, and Oregon. But so Ohio State needs this win badly to stay
Mm-hmm.
within the college football playoff race.
But yeah, they do need this win. I think like it's trending to be like because I think in the last 6 or 7 like 6 7 times that Ohio State has played Penn State, Ohio State has been the winner. They've even gone into Happy Valley when it's been a whiteout and have won those games. And just looking at the way the teams are composed, I don't know if Penn State can match like the offensive prowess that Ohio State has under Will Howard, and then the wide receiver duo of Emeka Egbuka and Jeremiah Smith, and also having two of the best running backs in the country.
Or Quinton Dickens and Travion Henderson. But yeah, that one is going to be interesting. I'll be glued for that one. I think another interesting one is this 11 a.m. This 11 a.m. slate is pretty interesting. Man, that Ole Miss Arkansas game is going to be tricky. I
Hmm.
mean, Arkansas has been on a tear the last few weeks.
Yeah, and I mean Arkansas State could easily like be what because they're 5-3 right now.
Yeah,
They could have like take a look at some of their margins. They're 3-2 in the conference, but if you look at Arkansas, the margins like they could have won at Oklahoma State and versus Texas A&M. They could have. They could easily be what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-1. They could easily be 7-1 and be in the running to go to the SEC championship game. Just turn out a couple of scores and boom, they're right there. So they will play teams tough. And I mean, Ole Miss is like, but at the same time, you have an Ole Miss team who was projected to be the SEC champion. They were a preseason top 5, but they're right now 2-2 in conference. They're leaning, and I think the team knows that too. They have expectations, so I think they're going to be really locked in. They're going to want to absolutely take care of business and just win out the rest of the games to even have a shot at making the college football playoff as an at large.
Right. Can we look at the schedule? Because I want to see when they play Georgia.
Yeah. So actually, it's right after they play Arkansas. They
Okay.
play Georgia.
Right. And I mean, and I was gonna see if this could be a letdown look ahead for either one because the week after this, Arkansas plays Texas at home. So I
Hmm.
mean, I don't. I think both teams will be locked in because they know they have huge matchups with two of the top teams in the SEC
Hmm.
coming up next week.
Yeah. And then speaking of Georgia, they're gonna have Florida.
Yeah. I honestly don't know how to feel about this one. Um, like Florida has been playing with heart. I honestly am very surprised that they're 4-3 right now because a lot of people predicted them to lose against Kentucky, but Kentucky is just absolute garbage. Um,
Hmm.
we're gonna see how the young quarterback DJ Lagway fares in this game against this Georgia defense.
Yeah, and I mean, again, this is a rivalry game, so I think Florida is going to play with like an extra chip on their shoulder because you're going up against a hated rival in Georgia, and what better for Florida to do than to knock off Georgia and possibly knock them out of the running to go into the SEC championship game? How would that feel as a Florida fan if that's plus? I saw somebody say that Florida is a long shot to make it to the CFP, but that's because of the schedule that they have. So they could. It's a long shot, but there is a path for Florida to get into the CFP as an at large, and that's just due to the strength of the schedule that they have. So if Florida, because after this Florida game, like after this Georgia game, they have to go to Texas, they have to host LSU, and they have to host Ole Miss.
I
So
mean, if you like, honestly, like I know, like we're not a fan of the SEC, but like if Florida were to win the SEC at like 10-3, I wouldn't be mad if they got. And I'm not saying this just because like I'm a Florida fan, but
mhm.
there's no way you can leave them out if you go through that stretch undefeated and then you win the SEC. Like there's no way that you can keep them out after that gauntlet.
Exactly, and I think like if that plays out how it is, then so it's kind of a at first it looked like it would really suck for Florida,
Right.
but with the way this college football season is played out, if Florida wins out, they could possibly be in the playoff with that schedule because who's going to deny Florida after the gauntlet of a schedule that they've played and the
Oh,
way
nobody.
so yeah. So other matchups, number one, Oregon traveling to the Big House to take on Michigan. Oregon's a 14.5 point favorite, and just looking at the way Michigan is right now, I think they might have found something in that game against Michigan State.
Hmm. Yeah, I believe Davis Wong started that game. I think he's a better thrower than both Tuttle and Orgy. So who knows? I mean, defensively, Michigan will keep them in it. So I mean, this is gonna be a interesting game. Oregon going to the Big House for the first time, so it's gonna be
Hmm.
must watch television.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, we referenced the game against Michigan State earlier. Number 13, Indiana traveling to East Lansing to take on the Spartans. Indiana is an 8 point favorite.
Mm. Yeah, I don't know if this is going to be a letdown look ahead for them because I don't know if it's the week after they play Ohio State or if it's the. I think it is the week after they play next week they play Ohio State, but I have to look.
Yeah, I've got it right here. We can show. No, they have to play. They play at Michigan State. They host Michigan, and then
And then
they
Ohio
play
State.
at
Okay,
Ohio State.
okay, yeah. So I mean, these are like if you're a really good team, this is a game that Indiana should easily win. And I mean, we look at their season as a whole, there's no reason why they shouldn't have a problem with Sparty. But Sparty has been pretty feisty this year. They're going to be on the
Hmm.
come up.
For sure. Yeah, taking a look at some more games. We have some more G5. We've got some Big 12. Uh, number 10, Texas A&M at South Carolina. They're at the cockpit. I'm thinking Texas A&M should be able to take care of business, although they are a 3 point favorite.
I mean, Williams Bryce is tough, man. I mean, LSU barely eked out a win there. It's not. It's not. It's a very tough place to play, man.
Hmm. Yep, Louisville and Clemson should be one to look out for as well to see how for the ACC race.
And man, let's look at this hidden one. This one is hidden on ACC Network. Pittsburgh SMU is going to be very important to the ACC race,
Hmm.
because if Pittsburgh wins this game, I mean they'll be right in the thick of it. And I believe within the next few weeks they play Clemson at home, so
Yeah,
that's going to be huge for them. And if SMU wins this game, they have a shot to go to the title game.
yeah. Take a look at SMU schedule because yeah, they win this game, they control their destiny because like that Pittsburgh game is going to be really important for SMU. I know, like, I think it's more important for SMU to win that game than for Pittsburgh to win that game because even
Hmm.
if Pittsburgh drops this game, that's only their first loss.
Right.
It's an in-conference loss, granted, but you still have an opportunity to redeem yourself a little bit by by beating Clemson. So, I mean, it's a very important game for both games, but I think it slightly weighs more for SMU than it does Pittsburgh. But at the same time, that those tiebreakers are really going to come into play. So I think both teams realize the importance of this game.
Yeah, and I think conferences will start to realize that with the divisionless structure, you're gonna start to see two or three undefeated teams in your conference, and that's sort of basically gonna screw you basically because I mean you look at the Big 12, you look at the ACC right now. I mean the ACC and the Big Ten. The Big Ten could end up with three undefeated teams, and none of those teams will have had the chance to play each other.
Yeah, it's a lot of tiebreakers. Finally, I wanted to specifically talk about Kentucky at Tennessee, but the main reason why I want to talk about Tennessee is those uniforms that Tennessee is going to be wearing.
Ooh,
Did you see the promo video that they put out
that was
on
dope.
Twitter?
Yes, I did.
Dude, I don't know what it is, but like, cause one of my buddies is like, so he's going to Knoxville for like after graduation, so
Hmm.
he's following Tennessee a lot, and I think he's become a Vol fan because he got to actually check out Tennessee baseball during like last spring break, so
Hmm.
he's become a Vol fan because of his time. But yeah, I'm just gonna show you like some of the stuff that Tennessee's put out. So right here, comic inspired by Venom. When as soon as I saw this, I was like, yes, this thing
Man,
is absolutely glorious.
dude, yeah, it is glorious. Like the fact that like they fully leaned into that Venom type of thing. I like that. I really
Hmm.
like that.
Yeah, just some wallpapers for any volunteer fan. Some merchandise as well, so that's pretty cool to see. You can even play it in CFP 25, assuming that game's still alive. But yeah, I think Tennessee has like they have one of, if not the best blackout uniforms in the country. It's something about black and orange. It just works so well. And then I've actually seen a few of those games, dark mode games. They look really cool. That'd be something I would want to go check out. But
I
yeah,
mean, can we also look at can we look at the Oklahoma State ones? Because I sort of want to roast those.
hold on, let me find this. Yeah, oh, okay. So yeah, I'm gonna.
Ah.
Oh boy. Yeah. So Oklahoma State. I'm not too sure what you're doing here. It's already off to a mess start with that logo. This does remind me of our old like Iowa State logo back when we were still like we were under a different name. I think we were like the Iowa Agricultural College or something like
Yeah.
that. So that's what that reminds me of. Let's see. Can I even find? Yeah, right here. Yeah. This. I.
That looks like an orange jumpsuit for jail. It looks like an orange jumpsuit.
It's it's something. Look at. Check out some of the comments here. Some of these comments are just. Oh, there's a shot of Georgia.
Oh man.
This shot at Georgia is hilarious because you just referenced the jumpsuit. That is funny.
Oh man.
Yeah, but
Oh.
yeah, some teams can pull off Halloween jerseys better than others. So yeah,
Well, be
but
like Tennessee. Don't be like Oklahoma State.
yeah. If it's gonna be, and we might be able to actually watch Oklahoma State play in those uniforms because our game kicks off at 2:30, theirs kicks off at 6. So we could literally be walking out of the Oklahoma, like walking out of the Texas Tech game, go right to our TV and watch the Oklahoma State game.
Man, yeah. I'm probably. I'll have my phone on me. I'll be at a wedding reception, so I'll be watching these games on my TV, and I will be sneakily watching the Iowa State game during the wedding,
Hmm.
probably.
So yeah, well, this is gonna be a spooky. Like there should be like I'm expecting some spooky weird things to go on this weekend, given it's Halloween weekend. So who knows what's gonna happen? I mean, there is room for some chaos to happen, even though it's not as like high marquee of a slate as you would think. But there's still some things that could go like awry. But just be on the
Oh yeah,
lookout. We're in the final, like we're starting to hit the home stretch of college football because after this weekend, the first CFP rankings will come out on Tuesday.
man, and like for us, it'll be much more sweeter when we win, and we'll be in those rankings, and we're sort of gonna sort of see what the committee is gonna be thinking, where us and BYU are going to be, to see if we have a chance to get multiple Big 12 teams in the playoff.
I I truly believe that we can, as long as both BYU and Iowa State go into the championship game undefeated, and then just whoever wins that game gets the auto bid. The other should get in at large. Just by the way, like teams are, and
Yeah,
with the
definitely.
mosh pit that the SEC is, there's a lot of like the SEC is just a giant mosh pit. So I'm thinking just keep winning, just take care of business, and then just go from there and see what happens.
Definitely. Well, thank you guys. That's the show, you guys. Thank you guys for joining us. Join us Sunday ish at some time. We'll figure something out. As we can be found on our personal Twitter. See is that Matt Campbell impersonator. I am at Side Tie Guy. Find us on all of our social media pages on Believe Network, BLEAV on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. So if you're your host Tyler Carter,
From your host Cody Vanciello,
this is the Believe in Iowa State podcast. Roll clones, baby.
let's go Cyclones.